بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So hopefully by now you know that there are 7 permanent heavy letters, those being kha, sa, da, gha, ta, qa and dha. And that there are also 2 letters which alternate between being heavy and light depending on the context that they are found in. Those letters are lam and ra. In the previous video we covered the letter lam, and in this video we will cover the letter ra. So the rule is straightforward. If you find a ra with a fatha or a dhamma on it, then it should be pronounced heavily. And if you find a ra with a kasra, then it should be pronounced lightly. Here are some examples. Raib, raib, ruziqu, ruziqu, rih, rih, kareem, kareem. What about if the ra is sakin? Well, remember, ra, just like any other letter, can be sakin for 2 reasons. Number 1, if it is sakin in origin, and by that we mean that it has a sukoon on it. We call that sukoonun asli. Or it becomes sakin as a result of us stopping on that letter, and we call that sukoonun arid. Now, in this instance, what we do is we take a look at the letter that precedes the sakin ra. If it has a fatha or a dhamma, then we pronounce the ra heavily. For example, Maryam, Maryam, Al-Qur'an, Al-Qur'an. If the letter that precedes the sakin ra is also sakin, then what we simply do is move along and look at the letter that precedes that one. Again, if it has a fatha or a dhamma, then the ra will be pronounced heavily. For example, Al-Asr, Al-Asr, Khusr, Khusr. Now there is just one exception to this rule, and that is if the sakin ra is preceded by ya leen. Then in that instance what we do is pronounce the ra lightly. For example, khayr, not khayr, khayr, dayr, dayr. The last context for us to speak about with regards to ra is when the ra is sakin and preceded by a letter with a kasra. In this instance, as you might expect, the ra should be pronounced lightly. For example, Fir'aun, Fir'aun. The same is true for if the sakin ra is preceded by another sakin letter that is preceded by a letter with a kasra. For example, Hijr, Hijr. Now, although this is a general rule, there are some exceptions. For example, when the ra is sakin and preceded by a letter with a kasra, but is followed by a heavy letter, remember the 7 heavy letters, then this ra is actually pronounced heavily and not lightly. Here are some examples. Mirsad, Mirsad, Qirtas, Qirtas. Another exception is when the sakin ra is preceded by a letter with a kasra that is not original. What I mean by that is that that letter does not normally have a kasra, but a kasra was placed upon it for one of 2 reasons. Either due to the meeting of 2 sukoons, and we call that iltiqa'u sakinain, or because it is a hamzatul wasl and we are beginning from it. And don't worry if you don't get this 100% now, there will be 2 videos on both of those subjects in the near future. But the point is, because it is not an original kasra, it therefore does not have the same effect, and so the ra is instead recited heavily rather than lightly. For example, ارجعوا, ارجعوا, not ارجعوا, but ارجعوا. لمن ارتضى, لمن ارتضى. Make sure to repeat this video several times and practice the rules several times and complete the homework that will be released in the following days.